Bocas del Toro in Panama. I'm Graham Hughes, and I'm in the house. Well, I'm outside the house at the moment on the balcony because it's been raining all night. It's been raining like a crazy person that wanted to put water over everything. Absolutely teeming it down in the middle of the night. Woke me up a few times, which is yeah. I'm usually quite a good sleeper, so that was a bit like, oh my god. And the water tank, which was pretty much empty, is now full. It is brilliant. So I was gonna have a nice long shower this morning, a nice long hot shower, but the shower's outside, right at the back at the front of the house, and essentially you when it's windy, when there's a cold wind coming in, it's just like having a shower in your backyard in the UK in March. So yeah. So I didn't have a long shower, unfortunately. But I have got my cup of coffee, and I'm absolutely chuffed because I looked out this morning, right? And normally, so there's two types of flooding that we have on the island. We have the flooding that's caused by the tide coming in, saltwater flooding, kills all of the trees and the bushes and the plants and the flowers and the grass, anything that's not a mangrove, it kills, right? So stop that. We've built a little wall all the way around the island, and that's not happening anymore. The other type of flooding is freshwater flooding, or sweetwater flooding, as you would say if you were a yachty. But then they call a toilet a head, so you know, I don't know what's going on there. But if you usually when we get this, it absolutely teems down here. And as I've said before, this area of Panama, this area, Bocas del Toro in Panama, is classified technically as a rainforest. It has 3.5 meters of rain a year. So we have proper torrential downpours, like monsoon rain. Hey Martin, hey Philip, how you doing? Glad to have you on board. Sorry, this cable's annoying me, because it's just like out the corner of the frame and I can just see it out the corner of my eye. And so I'm going to just put that piece of wood against it. Yes! There you go. You can't see it now, can you? Anyway, so what normally happens when it rains is that the ground's so saturated anyway at the best of times. Plus, we have these sort of areas of really dark soil, what they call tierra oscura over here, the dark lands. This was problematic for a couple of reasons. One, it looks shit. Two, it didn't seem to absorb much water, so every time it would rain, you get these massive puddles forming, which eventually would end up looking like a bloody swamp. So I'm glad to say, after all of the soil that we've had brought to the island over the last couple of weeks, the island looks amazing this morning. To be honest with you, it's not dry by any stretch of the imagination. It's still really wet out there. I'll show you what it looks like looking out the other way. That's our view, so you can see how overcast it is. There's a few trees there. Oh, we've got a jay in the background. We've got a Panamanian crow crowing. Yeah, so I looked out and I was like, great, the water tank's full because it was nearly empty. And it's always a bit of a worry when the water tank runs low. We don't drink water out the water tank. It's just for cooking, cleaning, showering, flushing the toilet, that kind of thing. But we have like a big bottle, big one of those, you know the glug glug machines that you have, the water coolers that you have in offices, right? We have one of them, and basically when we finish it, we just take it back to town and swap it for another one, and it gets recycled. So it's quite a green way of doing it. And we've got like a little pump that goes in the top. You know, like when you go to McDonald's and you have the little pumps for the ketchup and stuff, right? You press the pump and you press down the pump and water comes out of it, basically, which is really cool. I didn't even consider that existing. I thought you had to buy a whole water cooler container thing with the hot water and the cold water or whatever. No, you do not. Let it be known. Foggy in Liverpool, can't see the Whittle. Can't see the Whittle. Well, that's probably a good thing. Can't see the Plazzy Scousers. I may sound like a Scouser, but do not be misled. I do not come from Liverpool, I come from Birkenhead. Changing location, not on the dock. Yeah, because it was absolutely lashing it down when I was getting set up this morning, so I've had to relocate to here. So sorry I was a bit late getting back, but I've been in a bit of a bad mood the last few days. I'm sorry about that. You know, it's just, you know, I'm sorry if I get a bit shirty now and again. It's just that it's been very hot and there's been a lot of work to do here on the island, a lot of manual labour, a lot of fixing stuff and breaking stuff and pulling stuff apart and putting it back together. The current situation with Iran is driving me up the fucking wall. And I went out in Boca's Town the other day, and I know I shouldn't have done, but I didn't try to talk to any Americans. Like, I have a little rule that I have. It's like, if they look American, I won't talk to them. But I had a guy literally come sit at the table I was sitting at having a beer. Right. He came and sat at the table with me and joined in the conversation I was having with somebody else, another Brit. And yeah, that just the Americans, the American exceptionalism is just, it's terrifying. It's genuinely terrifying. So yeah, so I'm in a good mood now, which is good. And I read an absolutely corking piece on the BBC website this morning from Sir John Curtis, the pollster general, poll finder general of the United Kingdom, and he was talking about the fact that Labour's Brexit strategy is clearly shifting. Obviously, this is in the wake of what Sadiq Khan said yesterday about what Labour will be best to do is campaign to rejoin the EU in the next election. He's absolutely right. They'll fucking storm it. They would storm it. I'm telling you now. Like, because people who normally vote for the Greens, the Lib Dems, or for, I mean, you're probably not going to win too many voters over from the SNP or Plaid Cymru. But yeah, oh my God, like that would be the way. This is the way. And it's interesting that Labour is no longer tiptoeing around Brexit like they used to. You know, it was embarrassing. It was kind of like, don't mention the war, wasn't it, for a long time? It was kind of like, don't tell him your name, Pike. And I was just like, don't tell him, Pike, sorry, is the actual quote. He played it for her, now play it for me. Play it. He never said play it again. Play it, Sam. Okay, so yeah, Rachel Reeves has openly stated that Brexit has done deep damage, marking a clear rhetorical shift for Labour from sort of caution, like don't want to upset the old people who voted for it, you know, and love it more than they love their own flesh and blood, more than they love their own children. I hate that. I hate that so many older people vote right wing, vote for policies that their younger generations resolutely reject. And it always reminds me of, there was an episode of Any Questions, I think it's called Any Questions, or Q&A it's called, and it's the Australian version of Question Time. Okay, so they did a Q&A special, and it was around the time that I want to say Gillard government, is that what her name was? Julia Gillard? I can't even remember now. Anyway, they had a woman prime minister back around, this must have been around 2011 or something like that. And they brought in a fossil fuel tax, right? For fossil fuels, right? A carbon tax. And it was paid by the fossil fuel producers who could afford it because they make so much fucking money, right? And they did this Q&A special, and they had a panel of young people. So I think everyone on the panel answering questions, whatever, were like 16, 17 years old, right? I think the gimmick was they were too young to vote or something like that. And they were the next generation. They're going to be answering questions. And there was some horrible old gammon-faced gobshite, because every country has their gammons. And he said, I still remember this clear as day. He said, it's all well and good, you young'uns supporting this. Oh, I suppose he was Australian. Let's try and do an Australian accent. It's all very well, you fucking young'uns, fucking. Oh, no, that's not what they say on television in Australia. It's just what they say to each other all the time. Yeah, he said, it's all very well, you younguns, saying, great, bring in a carbon tax, but you're not the ones who'll have to pay it. What? Does he not know how aging works? Does he not know how... Friends, it was... Yeah, it summed it all up to me. And that was 15 years ago. That was the progression. That was the progression we were going with this older generation of voters who just seem to, every time they're given an opportunity to vote for something nice or something horrible, they always vote for something horrible. And I know it's not all boomers, but it's enough. Enough. So, but it looks like Labour are doing a strategic repositioning on Brexit. They are no longer about, saying they're going to make it work. They're not saying that anymore. They're no longer pretending it's working. They're not quite going as far as to reverse Brexit, but there's a lot of rumour now that they will, because it is the slam dunk 100% way that they can maintain a slimmed down majority in the House of House of Commons, is if they go down this route. It's as simple as that. And the strategic goal is clearly economic growth through EU alignment at the moment. That is the only real source that Labour's going after for economic growth, because through that everything else flows, like inward investment from foreign countries that is much more forthcoming if we're aligned with Europe. If you have a company in the UK that's producing widgets or producing some agricultural product or whatever it is, if that product or if that agricultural product is fit for sale in the EU because it is aligned with the EU regulations, then you can sell it anywhere in the EU. That makes sense. And that's why when I buy an electronic product here in Panama that's made in China, it usually comes with a CE mark on it. Even though it's been nowhere near Europe, it's not been made in Europe, it's not been sold in Europe, it's just that, realistically, right, it's not worth having two fucking production lines. Like shoddy electronics that might fucking explode down one aisle and then down one conveyor belt and then another conveyor belt with like the good stuff with the CE mark on. And what a lot of other countries have done, like places like Brazil and stuff, they've said, listen, we don't need to have our own standards for what can be sold in Brazil. All we're going to do is we're going to say it's European standards. If it's got the CE mark on it, then it's good for us. We'll sell it. And yeah, that works for many countries around the world, because that's the standard. That is the global standard now. And what's particularly frustrating about this is the CE mark is based on the British standards kite. You remember the flag, the little kite mark, British standards, yeah? Based on that, and that was transposed over to the EU. And what's particularly frustrating is that, you know, we can go further. We could go, we could add more regulations, more safety precautions in what is sold in the UK. But under the Tories, we went the other way. They were like, no, we're going to get less regulation. We're going to get less red tape. And I'm like, no, less red tape, First of all, they brought in loads more red tape, so fuck off. But secondly, less regulation means more deaths, more humans dying, more babies licking the bloody cot that's got fucking lead in the paint. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have standards. You've got to have standards. As we see when we see disasters happening. Hello, other Graham H. Hello. If you can't see the Wirral, I recommend your doc. Never heard it called that before. The later you join the EU, even if you join, the less power you have. Why the country always complained about not having enough power because you weren't a founding member, says Sutton Steve. Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. Like, honestly, all things being equal, I think nearly everyone admits now, even Nigel Farage admit that it's been a disaster. Everyone admits it's been a disaster. Everyone, everywhere, all at once. I mean, they might have different reasons. Like, I think it was a disaster because it was always a stupid fucking idea in the first place. Go back to school and fucking pay attention, dickheads. But, yeah, to a Brexit voter, they'll say, oh, well, it wasn't done properly. Wasn't done properly. We never really left. I've heard that as well. We never really left. I'm like, well, how come I can only spend 3 months in every 6 in Europe? Hey, not bad. Anyway, so what else have we got in here? I grew up in I grew up in Bebington. I'm sorry, mate. Is that next door to Port Sunlight? Is that Bebington? Not to rain on anyone's parade, but I don't see the EU being very enthusiastic about having the UK rejoining just to get out again next government time, says Yorosh. No, they'll do what they've done with some of the alignment policies that are coming through with Labour. Obviously, there's big negotiations going on, and there's a bit of a stumbling block at the moment over tuition fees for European students studying in the UK. But they're locking things in place to make it very, very difficult for any kind of future government to undo. And I know you're not supposed to tie the hands of future governments. However, it would be ruinously difficult for a future government to take the UK out again. And as far as the EU is concerned, and look, you know, I know you're actually going to think, oh, shut up, Graham, you arrogant British bastard. But I've spoken to people in Brussels, in Europe, who work in the EU, and they're all singing from the same hymn sheet on this one. They say, listen, despite everything, we don't want an economic rival on our doorstep. You know, we're weaker. The EU is weaker without the UK. You know, this isn't the case that they need us more than we need them. That was never true. We clearly needed the EU more than they needed us. But at the same time, the EU is incredibly pragmatic. And given the current global situation with America rapidly becoming a pariah state to the world, I honestly, it wouldn't be the practical solution for them to say, no, fuck off, because one day Nigel Farage might become Prime Minister and he'll take you back out again. So I think what we really need to do is, first of all, if we do go back in, obviously it'll have to be another referendum. Can't do it really legally any other way. Well, I suppose we could do it as a general election promise, like if you vote for Labour, we'll take us back into the EU. I suppose that's possible as well. But don't forget as well, like when we joined the EEC, as it was back in 1973, that was done by the government. We didn't have a referendum to join. We joined, we were in there for 2 years, and then we had a referendum on whether to stay in or not. So yes, I can understand that there is like a worry that Britain at some point in the future might want to leave again, which is which would be incredibly problematic for everyone. But I think if they approached it in a practical way and amended the way that the EU works so that in order to leave, make it very clear, it needs to be a supermajority in a referendum. A supermajority to leave, okay? Not to join, but to leave. It has to be a supermajority. None of this 52-48 bullshit. You need 66% of the population, like what we had in 1975, saying we wanted to stay, by the way. Why wasn't that referendum? Why wasn't that referendum recognised? What are those anti-democracy people coming along in the 80s and 90s saying no? We need to ignore the will of the people, the expressed will of the people. The super majority. It was 65%. 65% voted yes to stay in the EU. Yeah. Crazy. But yeah, so as long as there are things that would tie the hands of future governments in terms of if we rejoin, there's got to be something in there to say if you want to leave again, it needs to be a 2/3 majority in a referendum, which I'll never get. And the other thing is that they need to have it tied in with if you do leave, there is a penalty to be paid, which there was the first time we left, because it was £39 billion that we had to give to the EU to pay for things like Nigel Farage's fucking EU fucking pension. True story. Hey Saz, hey Steve, says Martin Harrow. I think it's a possibility must be addressed, but I don't think it's impossible. Me, bad at English? That's impossible. Yuvash, remember the proposed flavage clause if we start any negotiations with the EU? Yeah, sorry, that's where it is for me on screen. I know it's not for you, but yeah, absolutely, Simon Smith. I've put a flavage clause in. That's it. Just make sure that one man can't fucking pull us all out of the fucking EU. You know, make sure that cannot happen. Even now, Farage was on this morning, the day the Brexit result was announced, and he was saying the public had made a huge mistake. What? What? No, he wasn't. Shred herring. No, he wasn't saying that the public had made a huge mistake. He said that if the result was 48-52 for staying, there'll be unfinished business. That's what he said. But excitingly enough, Ivan is here. Hey, how you going, Ivan? How you doing, mate? It's not important to me, and I won't be threatened by anyone for having a dissenting view on this. I'm literally fighting for my life at the moment. I'm sorry, Ivan. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm okay. I don't know what to say to that, mate. So, yeah. I wish you well. I'm sorry that you're going through this, and thank you very much for the super chat, mate. I've said this before, mate. Like, if not everything we're talking about or anything is becoming a bit triggering for you, please step away, because your health needs to come first. But thank you very much for the super chat. I haven't got my super chat board. Should I go and get my super chat board? Because I've got another super chat here as well from Francis Winrow, £5 payday gift. Oh, thank you. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. Take my bloody shoes off. Okay, here we go. Beautiful. Right. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you. And also thank you, Francis, for the payday gift. That is very kind of you. I'm going to give your little comment there, a little heart. There you go. Yep, Port Sunlight was 2 minutes down the road. They filmed the stadium part to Chariots of Fire across the road from where I lived. I'm in the crowd. Know where I was sat, but can't find me. That's cool, man. That's very cool. Yeah, Port Sunlight's my favourite part of the Wirral Peninsula. Honestly, I fucking love that place. People come to visit me in the UK, in Liverpool. I nearly always take them over the water. They're there for a couple of days, and it's not just a day trip to see the Beatles tour, the Beatles stuff. Take them over the water, take them to the Lady Lever Art Gallery. That's my favourite art gallery in the world. It just is. Pre-Raphaelite shit for the win. But yeah, we need to secure and implement safeguards for if Farage or anyone else like can get some power. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, One Angry Pagan's got in on the action as well. Thank you very much to One Angry Pagan. Whoop, shit. Apes together strong. A little crude, but you get my point. Cooperative tribalism over competitive tribalism. Figs, love and blessing. Yeah, apes together strong. From Planet of the Apes. Attorney General Robert Hermer asks if Kemi Badnoch would object to a Jewish public prayer. He says she only has problems with Muslim events. Yeah. I didn't mean you directly, Graham. It's just one thing after the other at the moment with me. Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I get that, Ivan. And look, the only advice that I can give is what I would do in your situation is just try and avoid politics like the plague at the moment, because so much of it is bad news. But honestly, if we rejoin the EU, it would change my life for the better. It will set me on a new trajectory. I really wanted, like, I'm a big dreamer, as many of you might know, and I had this idea that after I got back from my travels around the world, I'll live on an island for a few years, obviously. Here I am. And I would write, and I've got the ideas and outlines for about 37 different books, screenplays, teleplays, novellas, stage plays in my head. Some of them are written. Half of them are in some semblance of order. Some of them are completely done. My dream was to set up a European film studio. That was it. Set up a European, like what they have in America, 20th Century Fox, Disney, which owns 20th Century Fox now, Paramount, Warner Brothers, have a European equivalent of something like A24. That was what I would like to do. And A24, this is before A24 became a thing. And my idea was to make documentaries and horror films because they're dead cheap to make. And I had loads of great ideas, and I worked with some really cool people who are just fucking fantastic at doing stuff like that. My friend Laura, who was actually, I used to share an office with her in Liverpool, and she was actually on my journey around the world. In the first year, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Liverpool, and Italy, Malta, and Tunisia with me. And she was nominated a couple of years ago for an Irish BAFTA, or the equivalent of the BAFTAs for Ireland, whatever it's called, for her documentary, The Deepest Breath, which is available on Netflix, which is about free diving, where you have to hold your breath and dive down as far as you can and come back up again. And it's like, yeah, if you've not seen it, you know the way Whiplash, if you've seen the movie Whiplash, is like you're watching it, and then finally at the end, and you can finally breathe out when the credits are rolling. Do you know what I mean? If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. The Deepest Breath, the documentary, does the same thing, and it's It's a phenomenal piece of work. And all these like incredibly talented people. My friend Oscar, he got nominated for a British BAFTA. I know the B in BAFTA is British, so it's not the Irish BAFTAs. I don't know what it's called, but the British BAFTA. He got nominated for the best short film for a movie he did called The Kármán Line, spelt as in the Kármán line between Earth and space, starring Olivia Colman. And he made this movie about 13 years ago now. So before she won the Oscar. It's phenomenal. It's just a 20-minute film. It's available to watch for free on Vimeo, The Kármán Line. Have some tissues ready. It's incredibly sad, especially if you've ever had someone that you love and you've had to let go. And it's very whimsical and British, but it's fucking fantastic. I know all these talented people, like so many people are just like in my circles, I just got so much potential. And a lot of them are unfortunately working for like corporate videos and things like that. They're being absolutely wasted as far as I'm concerned, because they're just doing the jobs that pay the rent rather than doing the jobs that like can actually transform a story into this amazing thing that fills up the silver screen. But setting up a studio in Liverpool, a European film studio, not a British film studio, but a European film studio, was a dream that I had had since I was a kid, you know. And I had this progression in my head. I'll do my travels. I'll use that as a springboard to get some notoriety, appear on TV, do TED Talks, make some contacts, publish a book, make some more contacts, option the book rights, etc., etc., make some contacts in Hollywood, and eventually get to the point where I could make my own movies in the UK, building up to launching my own studio. Not a production company, a studio. It's very different. So a studio has production companies making the films for it. So the studio goes, okay, here's the money, here's the budget, you know, $100 million, here's the budget. They give it to a production company. That might be a British production company, it might be Heyday Films who made Harry Potter or something like that, but it's the studio that doles out the money. And eventually the money, you know, when all the money comes in from the box office, obviously they make their money back. And the whole thing in 2016, which was the worst year of my life, I mean, maybe the second worst year of my life after losing my sister, but it was the year that Bowie died, that Carrie Fisher died, that George Michael died. It was the year that Prince died. It was the year that Brexit happened. Well, the Brexit vote happened. It was the year that Trump got elected for the first time. Leonard Cohen died. Jesus Christ. My dad was diagnosed with dementia, with vascular dementia. It was such a fucking shit year. And that was 10 years ago. 10 years ago this year. And you know, it's funny, I think back like 10 years ago, what I was doing now, 10 years ago on this island. And I was just living my best life. I was just having a fucking laugh. I was just having so much fucking fun. And then it just, in the space of a few months, the entire trajectory of my life, the way I thought I was going, just completely went off the rails. A lot of projects didn't work out for me. I had the deal with CBS in America to do a 26-part series that fell apart at the last minute, and I ended up in a fuckload of debt because of that, because I leveraged the fact that I was going to be doing this TV show in America, and then I get dropped, and it's like, oh, okay, I still haven't paid that debt back. 10 years on, I'm still paying it back like little by little, just a few £100 a month, all I can afford. And it's really incredibly frustrating for me when I hear people who, you know, are all for Brexit, and they don't know why. They're just like, I just don't like the EU. They can't really ever give me a good reason. And it pains me, not just because I feel like the fact that we left the EU and I could, you know, I had to give up on one particular dream I had, but also I had to give up on the way I used to make money back in the day, which was I would fly to Barcelona or to Ljubljana or to, I don't know, Cyprus or something, and do a promotional video for them. I was doing like influencer videos before they were a thing, but for the tourism board of, I don't know, Latvia or something. And it paid really fucking well, really well. I'll earn more doing one of those gigs than I do 4 months of twice daily shows on my channel. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so, and then that's taken away from me now because I can't get a work permit. Well, I can get a work permit, but it's a pain in the arse, isn't it? If I want to work in Europe, I've got to get a work permit. And everything used to need that when we were part of the EU. If you've got an Irish passport, you can still work in Europe without having to ask permission. I can't. I don't have an Irish passport. Even though I clearly have Irish ancestry. I mean, I'm ginger and I got the gift of the gab. And, you know, who wouldn't want that? I tell you, so yeah, I really, I was in, you know, it rained last night. I kept getting woken up by the rain, but I was happy, you know, it was happy rain. It was like, good, we need the rain. It's like rains after a famine. You know, finally the rain's come. Let's do a little rain dance. Let's be happy. Good. But also, I didn't, you know, I looking for stories to talk about today on the show. And I was just like, oh, fucking hell. Stupid fucking Trump. Trump saying to the president, the prime minister of Japan, saying to her, oh, yeah, well, we didn't tell you about Iraq invading Iran because you didn't tell us about Pearl Harbor. Oh, dear. Did your granny ever visit Dublin? If so, we'll get you an Irish passport, says Matil. No, my great-grandmother and my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather and great-grandmother's dad's side of the family, they were Irish, and they came across around the turn of the 20th century to Liverpool, and the reason being they eloped because my great-grandmother was a Catholic and my great-grandfather was a Protestant. Not just any old Protestant, but literally a member of the fucking Orange Order. Yeah, so that happens. Do you know in Northern Ireland they still call that a mixed marriage? Which is a ridiculous term. And like when people use that term, I'm just like, I mean, they usually mean it about interrace. What is that? It's not interrace, is it? What's the term for it now? Where there's a more politically correct term for it than mixed marriage. But just the whole concept of saying that just seems mad to me. It's like, did you hear about that blonde woman who married the guy with probably happens. Yeah, well, you know, I thought I'd make a special name for it. Okay, if you have to. You can borrow my Irish passport, Graham. You might have to shave and dye your hair grey. I won't have to dye my hair grey, mate. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. That's fucking... I don't go grey, though. I go white because I'm ginger. Worse than that, says Jeff. True. Trump said they didn't tell me. Yeah, yeah. um, Hey Jeff, we've still got your jigsaw piece in the house. Do we still got it in the house? We've still got that in there. Should we go and see? Look, we'll probably lose signal when I do this, but I'll try and I'll try and do this so we can show Jeff his jigsaw piece in here. Where is it? Where's Jeff? Jeff. There's a thing, and it has a. Let me see. Gavin, Gingers, Giraffes, Jeff T. There it is. There it is, mate. Look. There you go. There's your name, Jeff T. Look at that. How cool is that? With a little jigsaw piece. Marcus did that. It's cool. Anyone else in the chat who bought a plaque? I'll show you your plaque. You can see your plaque on the wall. Hey, I'm thinking of we've extended the walkway coming into the house, and I'm seriously considering writing people's names, etching it with the router again. I'm gonna I'll do a little thing to let you know if I'm gonna do that. But it'd be cool. It'd be cool if I did. Sorry, yes, Angry Pagan. Sorry, I was going to come back to your super chat. Thank you very much for the £5 there. One Angry Pagan. Sorry, you had to give me a reminder. I was going off on one. Super chat. We could have a more unified approach to species reintroduction and other ecosystem restoration projects if we were back in the EU too. That is very true. And thank you for the super chat, and thank you for pointing that out. It's all good things, mate. It's all good things. It is all good things. So, I woke up, looked at the news, thought, oh, God, this is all fucking horrible. And then I noticed this article by John Curtis about why Labour's, what's the title? Why Labour's Brexit focus has shifted from Leavers to Remainers, which is fantastic. Or rejoiners, as we are now. There's nothing bad that will come from us rejoining the EU. It's all just pure pleasure. It is all good things. It is all ways of making our economy worth so much fucking more, which will allow us to have the money to lift more children out of poverty, to spend more money on health, mental health, on elderly care, on child care, on child meals, maternity leave, paternity leave. We will have more money. It is a 100% net gain. We are not going to lose anything. All we did when we left the EU was lose. We lost so badly. We lost so badly it hurt. We saw they say 4% knock to the economy because we left the EU. But the reality was it is more like an 8% knock. An 8% knock to our economy. And factored over time, by now it's well over a trillion pounds that we have lost out of our economy because we left the EU. That's money that can't be spent on hospitals or schools or fixing the fucking potholes or giving people the services that they require, looking after disabled people, putting in facilities, reasonable adjustments so disabled people can get back into work. But no, we had to leave because Nigel Farage wants to make loads of fucking money. And I'm sorry to pull rank, as I often do on this, but ask a person who's been to every country in the world what they feel about Britain leaving the EU and whether it's a good idea. Ask a person, actually, no, it's two things, right? You've got to ask someone who's been to every country in the world, and they've also got to have a degree in politics. Okay, there you go. There's two things. If you can find someone who's done both those things, okay, I'm the only one to have visited every country in the world without flying, who has a degree in politics, but there might be one other person out there who's been to every country in the world flying and also has a degree in politics. I don't know. But I just feel like on this particular matter, I would like to pull rank. I don't argue with One Angry Pagan about dinosaurs, because One Angry Pagan knows more about dinosaurs than I do. And in this particular situation, I don't see any downsides of us rejoining the EU. There are literally none. You can say, well, it's going to cost us X amount of money because we have to pay into it. Yes. But it was costing us 250 million a week or whatever the figure that they put on the side of the bus. It was bullshit. They said 350 million. It's costing us. It wasn't costing us anything because we were making 2 billion a month, 2 billion a week. Actually, sorry, 2 billion a week. We were making 2 billion, 100 billion a year. We were making out of being in the EU. And yes, we had to pay a fee to be part of the EU. In the same way that you have to pay a fee to set up your market store. But you can imagine that the fee to set up the market store is 1/8 of the money you make from the market store. Are you going to stop doing it? No, you're fucking not. It's an absolute win, win, win. This is not just about, as well, not just about rejoining the EU. It's about the fuckers not getting in the next election. So they're going to drag us out of the European Convention of Human Rights. But the strategic goals for Labour at the moment is for economic growth through EU alignment, like keep moving stuff towards the EU on chemicals, on products, on agricultural products, on technology, on services, even like that. You know, if it's good enough for Europe, it's good enough for us. It's kind of like the attitude, which is good. That's a good thing. I'm getting eaten alive here. Where's me mosquito? Did I leave my mosquito coil in the house? Sorry, 1 second. I need to go and get my mosquito coil. I left it in there. You can listen to my Jay singing. Would you like a burning coil, sir? Fresh from the kitchen. Fresh from the chicken's bottom. So yeah, the economy. Look, what we're seeing at the moment is that Labour are shifting the way they look at this because they're seeing closer ties with the EU as essential to fixing weak growth. The economy in the UK is massively underperforming, and that's forcing a policy rethink. It's forcing it, and Brexit's now being framed internally as an economic constraint, not a settled success. I mean, it's not settled and it's not a success. So you know, and the old line, I guess, from Labour was kind of like, you must respect the will of the people. Fucking will of the people, fucking cock of the people, more like. Move on, and the new line is Brexit happened. But it's hurting us, so we need to mitigate the hurt. And I think that because of that big shift, and even though the red line still exists for now, I do think we're going to see more and more Labour politicians like Sadiq Khan speaking out and saying, listen guys, we need to fucking rejoin this thing sooner rather than later. Not least because, and this is something that Phil likes to point out, it's not really about what political parties want. It's about what the population wants. And we need a super majority of people to say, yeah, we want to get back into the EU to make this happen. And the beautiful thing is that 80% of young people who aren't allowed to vote in the in the Brexit referendum, this is people who are under the age of 28 now, who have been polled, 80% want to rejoin the EU. That's not even, that's a super duper majority. That's the kind of majority that, like, I don't know, Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un gets, do you know what I mean? That's the kind of majority you get if you rig the fucking system. Kind of crazy. Oh, we got another super chat. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the £20 super chat. Graham, I had to give up all my dreams, but it's nothing to do with Brexit. It's everything to do with my health. When we were in the EU, I still didn't get the disability support I need, so I will never buy it. But without being in the EU, you will never get the disability support that you need. Like, we don't have the money because the country has impoverished itself. It slapped economic sanctions on itself. Thanks for the super chat, by the way. Thanks for the super chat. Super chat! That's a phenomenal super chat. Thank you. 20 quid. 20 quid! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. But no, I think that the seeing it that way, and going, well, I didn't get what I wanted when we were part of the EU. Okay, that's one argument, but then you still haven't got it now. So being in the EU, I don't think had anything to do with domestic government policy on how they treated people, especially in cases of mental health. As far as going forward is concerned, what would really help the NHS, what would really help with medicine and therapy and stuff like that, is more money. Simple as that. More money, more revenue coming into the exchequer, so you have a bit of headroom, you've got a bit of money to do stuff. At the moment, they've got fuck all. They've got fuck all. Don't forget, every year we're not part of the EU, over £100 billion does not go into the exchequer. £100 billion. Think what that could buy. That could buy another 3 fucking HS2s. You're so minded. We don't have that money anymore. And so, yeah, I think for the health of the nation, for the health of the new generations coming up, I think it's absolutely 100% critical that we rejoin the EU sooner rather than later. And yeah, I think that it's why it needs to be a priority. As simple as this. Not if we want to be gruesome about it or just want to be callous about it. We need the fucking money, man. We need the fucking money. Like, sorry, you know, we need the money. That's coming from Graham. I'll do anything for a five Hughes. We need the money. So yeah, the red line still exists. Much to the chagrin of many people who fucking hate Labour's position on this and hate the red lines. The official on paper stance for Labour is no single market, no customs union, no freedom of movement, no rejoining the EU. But the policy is that they're actually implementing is quietly stretching those boundaries. There's increased talk of regulatory alignment, which I've mentioned, but there's also there's this massive push to reduce trade friction. You know, the sanctions we've put on ourselves, especially when it comes to phytosanitary checks, you know, food and agriculture checks. And there is a language shift that's quite notable in Labour. They were talking about resetting our relationship with the EU. They're not talking about that anymore. Now they're talking about a deepening relationship. And don't forget, this is all going on with the background of what fucking Trump is doing in America. Because a lot of the Brexiters, a lot of the privately educated Brexiters who told everyone to vote for Brexit because they went to private school and they knew that it wouldn't affect them in any way. Nigel Farage, the piece of shit, can still go and live and work anywhere he wants in Europe because he's dead rich. He's got loads of fucking money. He's a multi-millionaire. He's got a Coots bank account. He couldn't get a Coots bank account. He was on the front cover of all the newspapers for a week saying, I can't get a Coots bank account. So unfair. I'm going to launch a campaign to make sure that multi-millionaires can get a Coots bank account. Fucking hell. That actually happened. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? And they still follow him. Jesus Christ. What a horrible man. What a horrible man Farage is. And he rode on that fucking donkey, the Trojan donkey, all the way into the fucking, the seat of British Parliament and fucking blew it up, took away our power, took away our sovereignty, and now we are absolutely at the mercy of whatever dickhead fucking shit comes out of Donald Trump's mouth from one day to the next. And we don't have the same strategic partners that we had just 10 short years ago to back us up. What a shit show. What a shit show. And you know, because I've mentioned it a lot, the one thing above anything else that fucks me off about this whole Brexit thing, it's for thee. It's for thee, not for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're rich enough, Brexit doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. If you've got the moolah, you can live and work, retire, fall in love, marry someone from the EU. The vast majority of the British fucking population can no longer marry someone from the EU now. Because you need to be earning, what was it, 38,000? Did they put it up to 38,000? When I was living in the UK with my Australian girlfriend, we looked into her staying with me in the UK after I finished my journey, and it was going to be £18,600 that I had to earn a year, and it had to be a salaried job. So I couldn't do my writing, I couldn't do my presenting, I couldn't do any of the normal stuff that I'd done, I couldn't do my filmmaking, I couldn't make music videos or act as show reels or short films, I couldn't have done that. And still had my partner as someone from another country. If she was from the EU, of course, back then, yeah, it was fine, you know, you could. But this idea that only the rich can marry someone from somewhere else, and it's one of the reasons why we split up. The fucking xenophobia of a certain demographic of the country is just horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Simon, there's a Port Sunlight website. Should be able to find something on there. There used to be a port for the factory, so I guess it's up that way. Gives me an excuse to explore. Yeah, no, Port Sunlight. It's not actually a port. It's the name of the soap, wasn't it? The soap was called Sunlight Soap. But it's not. It's landlocked. One Andy Pagan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. We are European by language, culture, history, geography, and geology. This was my original point of contention with just the idea of Brexit. Thank you so much. Whoop. Thank you so much, One Andy Pagan. You're absolutely right. We are. We're European. We are European, unlike the Russians. Who aren't? They can fuck off. But no, we are European. Thank you very much for the super chat. Absolutely agree. Couldn't agree more, mate. And like cultural ties to our own continent. What I'd say to Brexiters at the time was like, what's the best continent? What's the best continent in the world? And they hated having to say Europe. They think of the world. They genuinely think of the world as America's, Africa as one country, Asia, people, Australia. They probably miss New Zealand off the map, as a lot of maps do, and Britain. You know, Britain is separate somehow. But like the weird thing is that the United Kingdom has a bit of another island, and that other island is in the EU. So that other bit, and if Iceland joined the EU, that means we will have Europe to the west of us, Europe to the east of us, Europe to the south of us, and Europe to the north of us, which we technically do because we've got the Faroe Islands to the north of Britain, which is part of Denmark. But I don't know if they're part of the EU. I think they've got a special relationship, just like Greenland. Because I think Greenland left the EU in like the 1980s. You know about this? It's like Greenland has a different relationship with the EU. They decided to leave. But Iceland are having a referendum later this year to decide whether they want to start trying to get back into the EU or not. Not back into the EU, in the EU, because they've never been. Ivan, oh my God, mate, please, if you're having a panic attack, don't keep watching. Go find something else to do, mate. Please, you don't have to do this. I don't want to give you a panic attack. I don't want people in the chat giving you a panic attack. Mate, please look after yourself. Seriously, I'll honestly, mate, I'll stop streaming. Okay, I'll stop streaming now if you're having a panic attack because I don't want that. So, Ivan, can you just let us know you're okay? And you know, I'll text you after the show. Can you? Oh, Chuck Norris is dead. Oh, that's shit news. Ivan, please, can you just let me know that you're gonna go and do something else, or I'll stop the stream, because I'm not happy about that happening. Oh my God, he was 86. Yeah. Do you know what? I try and go on the BBC website, but it brings up the international website. I'll come away now. Okay, Ivan. All right, mate. Listen, I'll text you after the show. Okay. I don't want you getting upset. Chuck Norris. Yeah, March 20th, 2026. No, there was a story from the News International from 2 hours ago saying Chuck Norris's health on the mend. Latest reports confirm improvement, and he's now dead after suffering medical emergency in Hawaii. So his final fight, Chuck Norris's final fight with the Grim Reaper, unfortunately ended with his defeat. Now he joins he can go and fight Bruce Lee in heaven. Oh, that's sad. Yes, I've had a friend visit. It's not landlocked. There was a port off the Mersey, so they could ship goods out. What? Really? There was a port in Port Sunlight. This is news to me. This is news. I'm going to look it up on the map. I didn't know it was an actual port. I thought it was like the road to Wigan Pier. Do you know what I mean? Like Wigan's landlocked. It's a joke. There's no pier in Wigan. Port Sunlight. Was there? It looks a bit too. How did it? I'm looking at the map. I mean, yeah. I'm sure you can get over to the. It's a bit of a walk, though, isn't it? It's a bit of a. Oh no! I'm looking. Okay, so am I right in thinking that Dibbensdale Brook? Look at this. I'm looking it up online now. Dibbensdale Brook. Yeah. Looks a straight line round the back of the factory. Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So Dibbensdale Brook. If you could get a boat along there, which I don't think you can anymore. I don't think it looks big enough. But yeah, that goes out to the Mersey. Oh wow, that's really cool. Well, you learn something every day. Yeah, Dibbensdale. It's definitely got canal features because it says it's a brook, but it's got some straight lines, and brooks tend not to have straight lines. They tend to meander. It's when you see a watercourse and you go, is that a canal or is it a natural river? And you go, is it got wiggles in it? Then it's a river. Is it got lots of little straight lines in it? Then it's a fucking canal. That's fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating. So that goes alongside Port Sunlight Park, and then it comes into Port Sunlight. Those of you who don't know Port Sunlight and have never been there and aren't Scousers are going to be looking at this going, what are you on about? You complete weirdos. But yes, so who else is in the chat there? I didn't know that Port Sunlight isn't far from me. I didn't know that, and Port Sunlight is far from me. No, I didn't know it. I've been to Port Sunlight dozens of times, maybe over 100 times in my lifetime. Didn't know it was actually a port. But it was back in the day. It's all top north to me, lol, says Angry Pagan. Yeah. Port Sunlight was a model village. Model of a village? No, it was a village created by Lord Leverhulme, who was the owner of Pears Soap, and Unilever, who was Lord Lever, and then the Lever brothers would eventually go on to become Unilever, one of the biggest chemical companies in the world, and also ties with slavery, by the way. And if you go to the Lady Lever art gallery, it does make that very explicit. It does say there were ties with slavery in this, which you need to acknowledge, which do. I mean, it's just a plaque on the wall. It's not a Bowman's novelty check to anyone who goes in there, whose ancestors, parents, grandparents came on the Windrush. They don't get a big novelty check if they go to this museum, this art gallery. There's just a plaque on the wall acknowledging the fact that that happened. That's the least we can do. Honestly, that is the least we can do. But he built this town. He built this little village, and it was all. It's so Victorian, and each cottage is unique, and it was all built for the workers in the factory. And at one end of the village, you've got the factory, and then you've got sort of the village green stretching out, and then at the other end, you've got the Lady Lever Art Gallery, which is just one of the finest collections of pre-Raphaelite paintings in the world. And if you're like me, you like a bit of Waterhouse and that, then yeah, get your ass down there. Any local knowledge on fossil hunting sites up that way in case I go up there again? I have no fucking clue, mate. There's a lot of pebble beaches. I'm sure you can find some pebble beaches somewhere. I don't know. I don't know, mate. I don't know. There was a Devonian period, wasn't there? Named after Devon. I don't think there was. I don't think there was a Rivolian period. I like the Wibble. Anyway, let's get back to the EU. Full stop. End of show. Bye. No, let's get back to the EU. So yeah, they've got these red lines, but we're seeing this sort of internal tension in Labour at the moment between the sort of the leadership saying we're not reversing Brexit, and then senior figures openly admitting Brexit damage and hinting at deeper integration. And then we've got like senior Labour voices going further than the leadership line. You know, we got Wes Streeting. I know he's a fucking bloom-faced cunt, but that's another story. But he's openly acknowledging that Brexit is a problem. You've got David Lammy saying that the economic damage of Brexit is self-evident, and now we've got Sadiq Khan openly calling for return to the single market, return to the customs union, and then rejoin. And this shows a widening gap between in Labour, the leadership being cautious and incremental, the party base, including me, and some ministers increasingly pro-rejoin or pro-alignment. And the direction of travel is clear. Even if the policy hasn't formally changed, political positioning is shifting to Europe. So I just as a bit of a story to tell you, I lost a friend during COVID, and I hadn't spoke to him in a few years before he died because he fucked me off, and I was pissed with him, and he basically he had one of those things where you push your friends away. And in the end, that thing ended up taking his life. And I felt like a bit of a fraud at his funeral because there could only be 30 of us at the funeral because it was during COVID times and Boris Johnson was having his cunting parties in Downing Street, every night, having sex in a cupboard and breaking swings and doing baggies of cocaine and spraying wine up the walls for the cleaning ladies to have to come and clean in the morning, clean the vomit off the staircase. And we were only allowed 30 people at this funeral. And I was one of the people, and I felt a fraud for being at the funeral because I hadn't really hung out with him for a long time, and I felt like an even bigger fraud because I was asked to give not a eulogy but a speech of remembrance of the good times and stuff that we'd had, and I did that at the funeral, and you kind of feel conflicted because you don't want to say no to the family when they ask you to do something like that in a situation like that. But at the same time, I felt really shit about it. And to this day, I'll never forgive myself for not spending more time with him in the last few years of his life, which time that I can never, ever get back now. But at the funeral, we met one of the other guys who was there, who was one of his friends who also worked at the NME with him, who's now head of music on fucking YouTube, UK and Ireland. Hi Jules, if you're watching. He said to me, but Graham, you had made inroads in the year up to him, going, which was true. Now, I've got a friend, we had a mutual friend in Manchester, and at the time I was making, this was in 2019, and I was working on the march against the Tory, march against Brexit in Manchester. This is the time when I went and I sat down with the deputy mayor of Manchester and the fucking police chief and all that, with representatives from the Labour Party who were also doing a march on the same road on the same day. And we were trying to organise timings so we wouldn't bump into each other and stuff. And the deputy the deputy mayor said, "But you protesting against the Tories?" Because we joined the Tory Party conference, and they went, "Yeah." And you're protesting against the Tories, and I'm like, "Yeah." And they went, "Why didn't you protest together?" And I'm just like, I'd fucking love to, mate. I'd fucking love to. Anyway, we had a mutual friend, or still do, a mutual friend in Manchester, and they had offered their help, but they said to me, "Listen, our friend's not doing so well at the moment, Graham. I want you to, reach out to him, or I'm not helping you," basically. So hand me over a barrel. So I sent him a friend request on Facebook. I unblocked him and everything, and we had a little bit of a talk. He was friends with Stephen Moffat, who I mentioned yesterday when I was talking about Doctor Who and Press Gang. There were crocodiles, and I put that quote up about crocodiles, and he was Facebook friends with Stephen Moffat, so he sent it to him, which got a response and stuff. So there was a little bit of back and forth, sort of liking each other's posts, and he'd broken his leg, and I'd sent a message saying, "Oh, I hope you're feeling better, mate," and all this kind of stuff. And we were edging towards, becoming friends again. Had he not died, we probably would be mates again now, right? And that's what our mutual friend at the funeral said to me. After the funeral, I said, "I feel so bad. I feel so guilty. I wasn't there." And he said, "Yeah, but if you think about it as your paths through life, they were converging. You were coming back together. You were both of you were coming back to the point where you'll be friends again, and you were on a journey, and it would take a bit more time. And obviously COVID came along, so that sort of complicated everything because everyone was stuck wherever they were. But it always stuck with me, and it made me feel so much better about how I had left it. And I still feel guilty. I mean, look, anyone who's lost anyone in those kind of circumstances will always feel guilty. It's just the way it is. But that always made me feel better. When at the end of January in 2020, I was in London for they had the Brexit party, the party that they fucking had into Parliament Square, and me and a couple of members of the EU flag mafia were out doing mischievous things, which I can't say because they might be actually illegal. I don't know. And we didn't hurt anyone. We just made the experience a little bit unpleasant for the people who were there. And I remember talking to, I think it was Mike Galsworthy who said this. It was either Femi or Mike. I don't know. I don't know which one of them it was, but they said something very similar. It must have been Mike. They said something very, very similar to what Jules has said to me at the funeral about the trajectory. He said, this is the furthest we will ever be away from the European Union, okay? And every step we take forward from now, we're moving together, we're converging. It might take years, might take decades, but there is only one way this ends, and that is with the EU and the UK together again, as should be, as it should be. And so, yeah, that same kind of analogy of your paths of direction. So the end of January 2020, that was the furthest we were ever going to be away from the European Union. They put down the British flag. We still hadn't had a fucking agreement with them about what our future trading status was going to be. We had the Tories in charge with a whopping majority of like 80 seats in that winter election of 2019. It was a dreadful time. It was a really fucking dreadful time. 2020 was a horrific year on so many levels. And now, now here we are in 2026, and Jesus Christ. But yeah, so that idea of the trajectory in my life meant a lot, but also in terms of the way I see the UK moving. So we'll be seeing more and more alignment. We'll be seeing more agreements. They've gone from having a meeting with the EU at once every 5 years. It's every year now. It's an annual summit that we're going to have to talk about our relationship with the EU, move closer and closer and closer. By the time we are in a customs union, and then we go into the single market, and then we're in the customs union. By the time that all happens, we'll be in a position to say, what is the point of being in the customs union and the single market, but not being a part of the EU, not having a say, being a rule taker but not a rule maker? What is the point? And then we can change things. We can change it. We can say, hey, let's step back into the European Union, because we tried it. We tried it your way, not Farage. We tried it Farage's way, and it was a fucking disaster. We tried it Cameron's way with austerity. It was a fucking disaster. Clegg and Cameron, fucking disaster. We tried Liz Truss, Trussonomics, and it was a fucking disaster. We tried having Boris Johnson as our Prime Minister and it was a fucking disaster. Because I remember in 2015, when Trump first said he was going to run for leader, and people were saying, oh my God, could you imagine if Donald Trump was the leader of America and Boris Johnson was the leader in the UK? For a couple of years, that was the case. And we had a pandemic on top of it. But we need to think about, so the direction of travel is clear, convergence. It is happening, whether Labour want it or not, whether Labour top echelons, the top brass want it or not, whether the Tories or Refork or whoever want it. The people want it. And we live in a democracy. And we've got 80% of young people saying they want to rejoin the EU. That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. And that number's not going to go down, because they see the damage that's done. They see the things that have been taken away from them. The older generation, the parents, are like my age, 30s, 40s, they say to their teenage kids now, well, you used to be able to take a year out and spend it in Europe. You can't do that anymore, unless you're dead rich. Unless you literally are a Nepo baby. So yeah, we've got to talk about when Labour moved away from Remain in the first place. Well, there was a trauma of the 2019 electoral defeat. This is Labour's second referendum stance was seen as disastrous by Labour, which was ridiculous because they came into that idea far too late and it was far too complicated. I've said this before. When people came to the door in December of 2019, you had the Tories. They came to the door in the middle of winter, letting all the cold air in. And you open the door and they'll say to you on the doorstep, get Brexit done. And then you close the door and they'll walk off. You got the Labour candidate coming to your door, and they'll say, well, what we want to do, we want to have a meeting with the EU and thrash out some kind of negotiation with them, and then we'll present that negotiation to the UK population, and they can have a referendum to decide whether they want to go ahead with the policy that we want, or we have a second referendum on whether we stay in or stay out, and then we have a second referendum, and then we'll have another 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5 years of debating the issue, and then finally we might just stay in the EU after all. By the time you've said that, all the hot air's been lost in the house, everyone's freezing to death and miserable and wet and cold, and they don't even know what's going to happen because Labour didn't make it clear. You know? But they were also traumatised by the loss of what they called red wall seats to the Conservatives. And so they made a strategic pivot in 2019 to accept the Brexit result, focus on winning back Leave voting working class voters, and avoiding reopening the Brexit debate, you know. And the 2024 election, you saw this in practice where they didn't talk about Brexit at all. I had a little pop-up that said, don't mention the Brexit, because they never did. They neutralised it as an issue. They offered a limited reset without rejoining, and they did this to avoid alienating either side, but the strategy didn't work because it didn't meaningfully win back Leave voters. But you know, there was a limited progress in reconnecting with working class Brexit voters, but the red wall recovery was weaker than they expected, and Labour's base remained predominantly pro-EU. Okay, so I talked about younger people. 80% of younger people want to rejoin the EU. 80% of Labour members want to rejoin the EU. 80% of Labour members want something, and the top brass of Labour are like, nah. You know, the party relied heavily on Remain voters switching from the Conservatives to Labour in the last election. Labour in the last election had to make themselves look electable to Middle England, and I hate that. That's a fact, but it's the fact. They had to in order to win. It's no good getting 99% of the vote in Liverpool West Derby, because you're always going to win that seat no matter what. Most of those votes are wasted. You can't point to that and go, oh wow, we got like, you know, 60,000 votes in that one constituency. It's like, okay, cool. Add that to the total of votes we got in the country, and we got more votes than ever before. Yeah, but most of those votes were wasted because you only needed 33% of them to fucking win. And you got 99% of them. Well done you. Liverpool Walton or Liverpool fucking Riverside. You know, these are safe Labour seats. They're not going to be won by anyone else, I don't think, anytime soon. So in order to win an election, yes, you have to go for the middle ground. You have to get people who have voted Conservative all their life, who are pissed off at the Conservatives for various reasons. Brexit might be one of them. There's lots of other reasons to be pissed off with the Conservatives if you've got a mortgage, for one, especially if you're on a variable rate. But Labour had to make themselves look respectable and appealing enough to those voters to win those seats in those particular areas, and they did it. And yes, it is a very wide and shallow victory, but with the likes of Morgan McSweeney out of number 10, I do think that things can really change in Labour, because the class realignment didn't really happen. The working class voters are no more likely to vote Labour than the middle class, and the Brexit divide still cuts across the Labour coalition of voters, not Labour members, but voters. And Labour's real electoral problem now is they have a collapse in polling support. They're down to 19%. They're trailing REFUC by about 8 points, but REFUC is not the main issue. That the losses to REFUC exist. You know, Leave voters defecting. However, there are bigger losses that are being caused elsewhere. 19% of Labour voters are switching to the Greens. 8% are switching to the Lib Dems. These are overwhelmingly pro-EU votes who think that Labour are not representing them. And I completely understand. There's got to be a lot of transgender people. If you're transgender and you want to be in the fucking EU, why the hell would you vote for Labour? Why would you support them at the moment? They're being horrible to people who are trans, and they're being, you know, not very helpful when it comes to actually doing something about the shit show that is Brexit. So, yeah, the key stat here is that Labour vote down is down 9 points amongst Leave voters, but it's down 19 points amongst Remain voters. If you've got to piss one of them off, it looks like they're trying to please everyone and ends up pleasing no one, isn't it? Labour is losing its core Remain base faster than it's losing Leave voters. The old political sort of front line that existed between 2019 and 2024 has shifted. There was a battle between Labour and Conservatives for the Leave voters, but the new battlefield from 2026 onwards is clearly Labour versus the Greens, stroke Lib Dems for Remain votes. And this changes the strategic incentives completely. And appeasing Leave voters is no longer enough. They must win back pro-EU voters to survive. Pro-EU voters like myself, who flew back from my island in Panama to vote in that fucking referendum in person with me mum. Labour now squeezed from both sides because the refuck is taking Leave votes and Greens and Dems, Lib Dems are taking Remain votes. And what Labour voters actually want, there is a strong support, 76%. This is not in Labour members, this is Labour voters, okay? 76% want stronger ties with the EU. There's even stronger support for rejoining, with 82% supporting rejoining the EU and 73% support starting negotiations to rejoin. And the key takeaway of this is that Labour's base is significantly more pro-EU than its leadership position. And Labour's leadership is massively behind its own voters on Brexit, or its own members and its voters. And so the reset strategy, reduce the trade barriers, as we mentioned, align with the EU rules, have fewer checks, keep the sovereignty, but have, we can either align with EU rules, right, and have less checks, or we can keep our sovereignty and do things slightly differently, but that ends up meaning that you're going to have more checks, more friction, more costs that you have to pay for. Someone's got to pay for it. Why is it me? Why is it me that we always have to pay for it? The attack lines coming from the opponents, obviously, are like, Conservative and refuck saying, oh, it's a betrayal of the will of the people, rule taking from Brussels, loss of sovereignty and all this. But the argument does still resonate amongst Leave voters. With this sort of like, oh, we don't want to lose control. But the way Labour can look at this at the moment is say no, because we don't want to be. Look at the madman in Washington at the moment, dropping bombs on Iran and making our energy bills go up by hundreds of pounds. Like, our energy bills are going to go up massively in April. What was it, 200 odd quid? It's going to go up in April. Not in April, sorry. Oh, it might be now. It was going to come down, wasn't it? Typical energy bill to rise. Oh my God. So yeah, it's going to come down in April, and in July. The typical energy bill is forecast, this is because of Trump, to rise by £332 a year. Trump cost you that. Trump cost that money for you. And so the argument needs to be made that we need to work with our European partners, because we've got to work with someone. We can't do it, can't go it alone. Britain's not been able to even fucking feed its own population with the food that we grow on the island of Great Britain since before the Industrial Revolution, my friends. So yeah, the core dilemma for Labour is whether to, option one, stick to a cautious reset and lose more Remain votes to the Greens, the Lib Dems. The option two is to move closer to the EU and risk, win back the pro-EU base, and that strengthens the Tory and refuck attack lines. But I feel like they can rebut them pretty easily now with what Trump is doing and saying, well, you just want to be helping Trump out. Both Badenoch and Farage both said we should be going in, boots on the ground in Iran, following fucking America on this fucking horrific, daft military adventure. One angry statement. One angry pagan. Sorry. One angry stamen. Sorry, mate. I'm trying to give you a heart. I think that if Starmer thought if he could, it would be already in session talks with the EU. I don't think he ever stopped being pro-EU personally. No, I don't think. I think he's a very pragmatic man. He does what he needs to do. Thank you very much for the super chat. It might be the last super chat of the morning. Thank you so much. That is very, very, very kind of you, mate. Thank you. And then you've got the sort of the full rejoin trajectory, which aligns with the voter base, but it's politically explosive. But then we need that. We need a bit of fucking razzle dazzle. We need someone to come out and Labour and just go, let's fucking do it. Let's do the show right here. Come on, woo! Because at the moment we're getting battered by people who are just a bit more charismatic and more fun to watch, I guess, for people who aren't that interested in politics. So the bigger picture of this is Brexit is no longer settled politically. It's not a settled thing. The economic reality is just forcing it back into the debate, and Labour, is fundamentally pro-EU. The members are, the voters are, the fucking MPs are. Let's face it. And the strategy for winning the 2024 election has been based on suppressing that fact, but that was before Trump got re-elected. Now that Trump is back in the White House, I think we are, polititainment. But yeah, electoral reality is forcing Labour to have a rethink, and this is a key shift. Labour is moving from managing Brexit to quietly undoing its damage, and the risk is that trying to do both is going to satisfy no one. So fuck it. Let's just go. Let's just do the show right here. Let's go balls out. Say right, if Labour win the next election, we're gonna have a referendum to rejoin. Labour isn't pivoting because it wants to. I mean, all things being equal, I think the leadership would rather leave this hot potato alone. But it's pivoting because it has to. The lesson of the 2019 election is now, to appease Leave voters is now outdated. It's not the case. Losing Remain voters from Labour is now the bigger threat. And this is the beginning. This is the beginning of this journey, this convergence between the EU and the UK. I mean, essentially the EU is going on its own direction, and it's Britain that's turning its trajectory just to come and meet it in the future. But there is an incremental shift in the rhetoric in the EU Parliament, coming out of the EU Commission, about the EU's relationship with the UK, and I think that's a real positive and a really welcome step towards the eventual and inevitable rejoining of the EU, which has to happen. It absolutely has to happen. It has to happen in my lifetime. And it could mean that Labour reposition itself to easily win the next election by, leading public opinion, instead of following the public opinion from 10 years ago. So that's what we can do. That's what we could do. Apparently Chuck Norris isn't dead. He's not sleeping. He's waiting. Chuck Norris passed away at the age of 86. You're going to see a lot of memes about that, I'm very sure, over the coming hours. What a guy. Texas Ranger. Walker, Texas Ranger. Okay, so that's where I'm seeing we're heading with the EU. Usually you'll look out over the palm trees and you'll go, oh, that sky looks a bit grey, doesn't it? It looks a bit of a grey day out there, but this is really, really welcome. The soil needed the rainwater. I needed it to fill the tank. I got to see the island after a night of torrential rain, and it doesn't look like a swamp. It looks fine. It looks absolutely fucking fine. It looks perfect. We just need a bit more grass, and we are sorted. Oh, there's a boat going really close to my island. Hello. Can't see me because there's trees in the way. Chuck will be better tomorrow. He was dead, but he got better. It's afternoon, Graham. We're in the UK 0 line of longitude. Reset the time. Everyone else is wrong. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like when it's 9 o'clock at night in Australia, and it's actually midday. Try and explain this to people; they don't listen to us. But yeah, it must drive the French mad that the universal measurement of time stems from London, not Paris, because they desperately wanted it to be Paris. Don't forget, kilometre, the grams, all the SI measures pretty much all stemmed from the French Enlightenment and the wake of the French Revolution. They really wanted it to be PMT, Paris Mean Time, but it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be PMT. Not that it would have made that much of a difference, because it's very, very close in terms of longitudinal lines to London. But yeah, it is a bit crazy that the point where 0 degrees on the equator, latitude, and 0 degrees longitude meet is off the coast of Western Africa. Africa's got kind of. I suppose I need to go backwards, don't I? Because you're backwards, are you? Oh no, it'll be all right. So if I do that, right? So you've got all the countries, little countries along there. You've got Guinea and Sierra Leone and Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana and Togo and Benin and Nigeria, and it's just to the south of that little bite. It's in the middle of the sea. So if you do want to go to 0 degrees, you've got to get a boat from Gabon, skirt along the equator a little bit to Sao Tome and Principe, and keep going west a bit, and it's just a point in the middle of the ocean. Seems like a strange place for absolute zero, longitude and latitude, but there you go. That's just the way it turned out. When I was, this will be in my final book, End of the World, but I crossed the equator. I mean, I want to say that I officially crossed the equator about a dozen times on my travels, but I also crossed it a fuckload of times on the way to San Tome and Principe from Gabon, because it's slap bang on the equator, and we were having to tack, so we weren't necessarily going straight. We were under sail, we weren't using a motor, so we were tacking, spinnaker sail up, and whatever we were doing. And so I must have crossed the equator like dozens and dozens of times on that particular journey, because we were following the equator. We were trying to keep the GPS on 0 degrees latitude on that sail across to Sao Tome and Principe. I'm back as well. And I still remember that night, that morning. I was on the night shift on the boat, and the guy I was with who took me over there in his boat, he was asleep, and I got to watch the sunrise and on the equator, and the sea was like really flat. It was like the lagoon out there in the morning. It was really flat, and I just remember I think it was like a bit cloudy or something, but the sea looked like it was made of mercury. It looked like it was silver. It was insane, like the way that the light catching it with the morning rays of the sun coming through the clouds or whatever it was just fucking surreal. I just remember looking around going, whoa, like it looked like an alien world. One of the things that I often sort of rail about in movies is when you have an alien world and it just looks like Earth. And I'm like, come on. There is a shot, blinking you'll miss it, in Star Wars Episode 3, Attack of the Clones, when Order 66 is put out by Emperor Palpatine to murder all of the Jedis, and there's like a shot of a particular Jedi. I think she's a Twi'lek or something. She's got the head tails, and she gets shot, and they're in this planet which has these massive mushrooms, and it looks really alien. It looks like an alien fucking world. In my Doctor Who script that I wrote, called The Brain Drain, the world that they inhabit, there's no plants as such. It's all fungus. That's grown there, and there's a in the sky. Whenever you see the sky, this is a moon going around a gas giant. And you see the rings of the gas giant, and the rings, there's gravitational effects on the sky, so the sky is purple and it's rippled as well. So whenever you see a shot on this fucking planet, it looks like an alien fucking world. And do you know that who does this the best? And if anyone's seen this, right, this is a real find. I think it's on Netflix, but look it up. It's called Scavenger's Reign. Okay, it's an animation. And it's about the survivors from an exploded spaceship that's crash landed on this planet. There's 3 groups of people, and they've been split up, and they're trying to get back to their ship, or, to blast off and get back into space. And they've landed in these sort of escape pods, and it is an alien world. And the people who have made it have spent so much time thinking about the flora and fauna of that world to make it look alien, to make it look like this is not on Earth, this is definitely extraterrestrial. And there's entire life cycles that go on in this show. If anyone's seen it, let me know in the chat. But honestly, 10 out of 10. No notes, scavenger's reign. I mean, it's gruesome, it's beautiful, it's heartbreaking. It is just one of the best animations I've ever seen in my life. And the way it renders that alien world is just absolutely phenomenal. And that's something that I would like to see in when I watch my shows and I see an alien world. I want it to look like a fucking alien world. Thank you very much. I don't want it to just look like, you know, a forest. We're in a forest. Like in the Acolyte, they had a lightsaber battle in a forest, and I'm like, okay, so you went to Delamere Forest, and you ran around in your Jedi robes, or they go to an ice planet, and it just looks like the Arctic, or they have an ocean planet, and it just looks like an oil rig in the middle of the fucking ocean, and you're like, wow, fucking wow, wow. Or they go to Coruscant, and it's just a city. The whole planet is a city. No, fuck off. Fuck off. That couldn't work. That could never work. That would just be so fucked on every fucking level. Like how? Where'd you get the food? Where'd you grow crops? What'd you do? I mean, just come on. You covered the whole thing in concrete. Seriously? You got thousands of different planets to live on, and you decided to make this one an entire. Or Tatooine, that just looks like a desert. Or Yavin 4, that just looks like Guatemala. Just looks like Tikal. So yeah, all alien worlds look like a quarry in Wales. Exactly. I hate that. Fun fact, during the Permian era, almost all of the former supercontinent Pangaea was in the southern hemisphere, in contrast to today. Yeah. Well, isn't it really fascinating that the Hebrides, not the Hebrides, the fuck, what are the mountains called in Scotland? Shit, the Cambrian Mountains? Is it the Cambrian? No. What are the mountains called in Scotland? Why have I having the big mountain range in Scotland? The Cairngorms. The Cairngorms, is it? Is that right? Fucking hell, hang on a sec. Cairngorms. Mountain range in Scotland. Oh, thank God for that. Right. So the central Pangaean Mountains split off to create what are in Scotland the Cairngorms, and in America it's the Appalachian Mountains. They're the same mountain range. Which is kind of crazy, isn't it? That is kind of crazy. Oh wow. So yeah, they also include as well as the Cairngorms, they include the Appalachian Mountains. They also include the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. It's all one mountain range. Yeah. Yeah. The Central Pangaean Mountains, and then the continents split, and so a bit of that mountain range is now in Scotland, a bit of it is now in North America, and a bit of it is now in North Africa. I don't get how anyone could find this subject boring. Well, no, yeah, I don't find it boring, but you know, people find politics boring. People find fucking Star Wars boring, and I think Star Wars is really fucking cool, except for the shit ones like that fucking Acolyte show. God, that was shite. It was really painful as well because it was one of the first sort of Star Wars shows that really tried to make have a really good diverse cast, which I thought was great, but it was a shit show. That's just a shit show. Anyway, all right, my friends. I love you all. You're all fucking amazing. Now, so I'm going to tell you what's going to happen later today. The wind has got up, so you'll come and set up. Are you able to raid the Witchy Goth live at 3 p.m? No, I can't. I can't. Not on the mobile version of YouTube. Like, honestly, YouTube mobile, I think it's absolutely shite. I think we need to have a YouTube setup where you can do live shows through a YouTube Studio app, because the YouTube Studio app isn't a studio. It is literally a fucking. It should be called analytics, or it's just looking at your metrics and stuff. It's not a studio. They should have a bespoke setup that is similar to the one that you get online on your laptop when you're streaming through your laptop, but for your phone. I want that as a separate app called YouTube Studio, and I don't stream through the YouTube app. I stream through that, and it gives me the ability to do animations, to do a title sequence, to do an animation at the end with the names who come up, videos that are already set up. And I say, when I press this button, I want you to play that video. So I can press a button on my phone and it plays the video that I want, or it plays the animation. So I press a button on press my camera and press my phone, and it comes up with super chat on the screen. I want that. I want to be able to set the resolution, sorry, not the resolution, the aspect ratio to 16:9 and make sure that that's exactly how it goes out. And if my phone, for whatever stupid reason, decides to go out as 20:9, it just ignores that and just gives it a black bar at the other side. Whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do. So, friends, Romans, countrymen and ladies, thank you for joining me this morning with a bit of uncharacteristically good news for a change on the whole where Labour is going to take us with the EU, and for many of us who have been watching this sort of thing for many years, I think a lot of us will know that this is inevitable. So yeah, if everyone wants to head over to the Witchy Goth, she's starting at 3 p.m. so please join her. I will try to get into town today, this afternoon, for 4:30 my time, in order to do an episode of the Friday Night Social, because it is Friday, isn't it? I'm losing track of days. It is Friday. So please look out for that. If I'm not able to do a Friday Night Social, I will do a stream, possibly not from the boat dock because it's not finished and it's raining today, so we can't do that. But if I'm not able to get over to the town because it's too windy or too rainy, then I will be doing that from here. It'll be just me on my own. If I can do a Friday Night Social with my friends in the UK, I will attempt to do that. So hopefully we'll get Hannah, we'll get Scott, we'll get Mike on board if he's about and can make it. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Please join us. It's once a week, let your hair down on a Friday night. And it's kind of cool that if I go over to town, I get good enough internet that I can actually do the Friday Night Social. It's just a shame that I can't do it from here. The only way I could do it from here is if I'm getting fucking Starlink, and I'm just not. I'm sorry. I'd love to be able to do more animations and have people come on the show and do dual fucking lingo, whatever the fuck it's called, with somebody else. Yeah, it's just my internet isn't great at the best of times. Although, has it been pretty good this morning? I feel like we've got pretty good internet this morning. Maybe that's reflected in the super chats, because people don't like giving super chats to a shit stream that's like, at 144p. It's like, what the fuck is this? That's not even worth £1.44. So yeah, all good. Thank you so much. R.I.P. Chuck Norris. Don't worry, he's dead, but he'll get better. And until I see you again, hopefully at 9:30 your time tonight in the UK. And don't forget the clocks go back this weekend, I think. So from next week, my shows that were normally at about 1 o'clock on the weekdays and weekends will shift to 2 o'clock for you, because you'll be 6 hours ahead of me. I'm staying here. My time zone isn't changing. You're the time travelers. So woo-wee-woo. It's not been too bad today. Yeah, but what about the quality of the stream? Okay, I'll go now. Thank you very much for watching. I'll turn the screen around so you can have a look at the palm trees. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. Goodbye. Lovely palm trees.